Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, Tuesday, April 9th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. First off, we'll be doing a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up turning out. And then after that, we'll get moved over to RotoWire, take a look at the weather for today's slate overall. And then after that, we'll get moved over to FanDuel, talk about my core picks. It's going to be one pitcher, four hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance and kind of recent history and going from there. And then last but not least, we'll get over to my cheat sheet, which is up on the Sports Affiliation website. Talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with a recap of yesterday's picks. So at the pitcher position, we had Yu Darvish, $9,200, had some pretty good history versus the Cubs in the past. Unfortunately, it did not ultimately end up being the case yesterday. Only finished with 9 points, so he was a miss. You know, as always, especially with MLB, you want to mix and match pitchers. So just because I have somebody as the core play doesn't mean you should play them in 100% of your lineups or anything else like that. You know, maybe like if it was a super small slate and all the other pitching options didn't look great, but definitely recommend mixing and matching like 3 to 5 guys. Just kind of depend on who you like on that given slate. And then at second base, we had Jose Altuve, $3,800. He had some pretty good history in the past versus Andrew Heaney, who was starting for the Texas Rangers. Got to 6.2 points. Did give him a miss. He went 0 for 4 with 1 walk and a run scored. It was his first game all season that he did not get a hit, so kind of unfortunate. That just happened the day that he was a core pick for us. And then at shortstop, his teammate Jeremy Pena, $2,900. Got to 6.5 points, so did give him a push. He wasn't really anybody that hurt our lineup. Really wasn't anybody that put it over the top at the same time. 1 for 4, did have an RBI as well. And then in outfield, we had Marcell Ozuna, $3,700. Got 25.2, so did give him a hit. He ended up being the 9th overall outfielder yesterday. There was a pretty big tie for 9th place, actually. And then, you know, the guys that were all ahead of him, we had a couple guys that hit multiple home runs yesterday. So a really good performance across the board from outfield yesterday. And then we had Jorge Soler, $2,800. Only got 3 points yesterday, so did give him a push. You know, he was a cheaper guy. Didn't really hurt our lineup. Didn't really help it. So 0 for 3, 1 walk yesterday. So pretty down day overall. Obviously, you're going to have that. There is a little bit more volatility, especially when it comes to baseball than some of the other DFS sports. So you just kind of have to embrace that. Hopefully, you guys had some other good plays alongside the score. Maybe you got to a different pitcher. Still had a chance to catch in that situation. But we're going to get back to it once again today and kind of try to right the ship. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and take a look at the weather report for today's games overall. So I will mention yesterday, you know, we kind of talked about the weather in Texas being a large chance of rain. I had a little bit of rain fire and forgot that, you know, they can close the roof there. But so that's kind of one good thing about some of these newer MLB stadiums is they do have those retractable roofs. So rain doesn't play quite as big a factor. But we're just going to look through these games, kind of go through it real quickly. Yankees and Marlins looks good. The Blue Jays and the Mariners are in a dome, so we're not worried there. Down in Atlanta, 41% chance of rain, and that's probably going to be one of the bigger ones today, but we'll keep an eye on that. Not too really concerned at this point in time. Kansas City has no chance of rain at this point in time. And then we have the Minnesota Twins and the Dodgers in Minnesota, 20% chance of rain there. Not too worried, though. I feel like most of the rain in this direction has kind of passed over the last couple of days, so don't really think it's going to be too big of an issue there. And then down in St. Louis, the Cardinals and the Phillies, 5% chance of rain there, so not too worried. Once again, we do have that Texas game that does have the 60% chance of rain, but, you know, once again, if the weather gets bad there, they'll just close the roof, so not really a major concern there. Then we get down to Colorado, only a 6% chance of rain out in Coors Field, so that should be one that is good to go. Obviously, Colorado is one of those spots that can kind of change on a dime, though. The Angels and the Rays have no chance there. We got San Francisco with just a 2% chance. And then we move down to San Diego, and there's no chance there. So pretty much for the most part looking like a good day weather-wise. The only one that we'll probably be watching a little bit closer is going to be the Atlanta spot overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there. So once again, it is a combination of past performance and the respective matchup plus recent history. So we're going to start off at the pitcher position with Nathan Eovaldi. He's $9,500. So he's kind of middle of the pack there in terms of price tag. There are, you know, probably a handful of guys that are priced ahead of him and a handful that are priced below him. So do like the matchup against Oakland. Oakland's, you know, one of the weaker offenses in all of baseball. They got a couple good guys in the middle of the order, but other than that, not too scary overall. Eovaldi's got some pretty good history versus them in the past. He had 2 starts versus Oakland last year where he had 72 points in his first start versus them and then 16 in the second one. So the second one wasn't as good, but if you get anywhere near that high-end upside of that first one, he's going to be a guy that you need in your lineup tonight. So definitely do like his upside. Typically a guy that does pitch pretty well early on in the year, kind of before he hits his little injury bug, which seems to happen almost every year, unfortunately. Then at first base, we're going to go with Christian Walker, $4,200. Once again, that elevated price tag for these guys at Coors Field, I don't love it, but don't typically love paying up for Christian Walker, but I do like the game environment here. I like the matchup versus Cal Quantrill. He's 4 for 9 with 1 home run versus him. And Christian Walker has hits in 8 out of his 11 games so far this season. 5 of them have been multi-hit games, so it does offer some pretty decent upside at this elevated price tag overall as well. Then at shortstop, we're going to go with Anthony Volpe, who is off to a very strong start to the season. He's going against AJ Puck today. He's only got 1 at bat versus him. He's 0 for 1, so not a long list of history there. We're not going to write too much into that. But he has hits in 8 out of his 10 games so far this year. 4 of them have been multi-hit games. I believe it was yesterday he hit a big home run. So I definitely do like what he's been doing so far to start the year. He's at $3,100. If you look at even what he's been doing over these 10 games, it's almost 16 points per game. So if he does that throughout the season, his price tag is going to be a lot higher than this. And, the matchup versus AJ Puck and the Marlins is going to be a pretty good one. Puck's probably not going to pitch too deep into this game, especially if he has control issues once again. So getting into that Marlins bullpen could be a good thing as well. Then we move down to outfield. We're going to start with Mitch Haniger. He is 4 for 7 with 2 home runs in his career versus Chris Bassett, so some pretty decent history there. Only $2,800. Looks like a decent paydown option at this point in time. He has hits in 7 out of his 10 games this year, although only 2 of them have been multi-hit games. But if he hits a home run versus Chris Bassett once again tonight, should be a pretty good game for him overall and would be one that we really like at $2,800. And then last but not least, we have MJ Melendez, $2,900. He is going against Christian Javier of the Houston Astros tonight. He's 2 for 5 versus him in his career. And MJ Melendez, a really hot start to start the year. He has at least 1 hit in 8 out of 9 games. He's on a modest 5-game hitting streak. And he's homered in 3 out of his last 4 games. So at $2,900, this is a price tag. This is a player that I want to take a chance on. He's off to that hot start. He's played really, really well as of late. And, if he gets another home run tonight versus Christian Javier, it's going to look like a really, really good play at $2,900 once again tonight. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $12,500 remaining, just over $3,100 per player remaining. So decent amount left over. You can pay up for a couple guys if that's something you want to do. You can pay down towards the bottom. There's going to be a couple cheap guys, I think, tonight that are going to look pretty good overall at some of those lower price tags. Obviously, starting lineups will play a little bit of a factor in that just in general, but should make for a pretty interesting slate overall. I believe it's an 11-game main slate, so a lot of different options, a lot of different ways that we can approach it. Obviously, when we're talking about the 4 hitters that I do have listed here, they all play on different teams, so if you kind of want to mix and match, stack some teams on one lineup, play some of these guys as if you were one-offs, and then stack a different team or teams on a different lineup, and then play, a couple other ones that you didn't play on the initial lineup as you're one of. You can definitely do that. If you want to build a Diamondback stack, if you want to build a Yankee stack, that does make some sense. Seattle and Kansas City, probably not going to get to too much stacks there versus them, but there's a little bit of history on both those sides as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet on the Sports Affiliation website and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight overall. So we're going to start off with the Texas Rangers. They're going out against Alex Wood tonight. Not sure how deep he's going to pitch in the game. He's not a guy that typically goes deep into games anymore nowadays. So getting to that Oakland bullpen could be pretty beneficial for them overall. Obviously, if you want to get to some Marcus Semien, some Corey Seager, definitely makes some sense there. Ezekiel Duran does have good history versus Alex Wood as well. And then we got the Diamondbacks going against Cal Quantrill at Coors Field. It's going to look like a very favorable matchup. It's probably going to be a pretty popular one too as well. Obviously, you got those elevated price tags of those Diamondback and Rockies hitters tonight just in general, but don't mind getting to the Diamondback side of this one once again. The 2 main guys that have good history versus Cal Quantrill in the past are going to be Christian Walker and Eugenio Suarez. And then we had the Los Angeles Dodgers going against Louis Varland of the Minnesota Twins. The only guy that has history versus him in the past is Shohei Ohtani. He's 1 for 6. But I do definitely like this Dodgers lineup. Varland didn't look too great in his first start, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers do pretty well versus him tonight as well. And then we had the New York Yankees going against AJ Puck of the Miami Marlins. Talked a little bit about them when we talked about Anthony Volpe in the core picks. Puck's probably not going to pitch too deep in this game. He's been having control issues, obviously being a converted reliever. So if you can get to the Marlins bullpen pretty early, could be a really favorable matchup for them overall. Not a long list of history here versus AJ Puck, so nobody truly standds out from that perspective, but definitely do like attacking some of these Yankees hitters overall. But with that being said, that's the rundown as far as the recap, the weather report for today, my core picks, as well as my top GPP stacks. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then with that being said, I'll be listing any major updates that do happen throughout the day down in the comments, as many starting lineups as I can get to throughout the day and night as well. And then if there's any changes to my core, I'll leave them listed down there below as a pinned comment as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS Core Pick videos coming out Monday through Friday, and then once a week, I'll be doing my UFL DFS video as well. Unfortunately, I was not able to get to that for week 2, but we'll be back for week number 3. And then as well, be sure to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. In terms of the MLB DFS, I have my MLB DFS notes up there daily. It's going to be talking about the pitchers, whether I consider them in play, a risky play, or a straight up avoid. Talks a little bit about their past history versus their respective opponent and what they did either this season or last season versus them as well. And then highlights some notable hitter versus pitcher matchups and potentially a couple other stacks that do not make my cheat sheet as well. Maybe drawing a little bit less ownership or maybe a little bit more risk to them overall. And then from the UFL side, if that's something you're interested in, do have a lot of data up over there, as well as my sheets for that every single week as well. Very small monthly donation over there. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user on any one of those free sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities we had out there. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.